Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now we're in for a bit of a treat today because I've managed to get my first piece of bird's eye maple. I've got this beautiful Burl piece and it really is quite a wonderful shape. It's a reasonable size, it's about 16 inches by 10 and 2.5 inches thick. But the main problem we've got is that all the bark is still intact, and on this side I don't know how deep this bark is going in. It's going to be a very similar situation to the horse chestnut burl we turned a few weeks ago, where as I don't know how deep this bark goes, I don't know what problems are going to be underneath there. But we're getting fairly good at solving problems, so we're not going to let that put us off too much. Now, I would like to try and keep as much of this size as possible, although I am going to be making some changes to it. But I want to try and keep this natural feeling to the edge. So hopefully, if all goes to plan, you'll see how we'll do that later on. Now, this is going to be the top of the piece, so to mount it, I'm going to put a worm screw in the center, which I think is around there. So I'm going to drill into there with an 8mm bit, but before I do that, I want to introduce you to today's sponsor. Now, these are the everyday earbuds made by Raycon, and I've had these for well over a month now, and they are absolutely amazing. Now, when I face any particular problem, the way I solve it is by running through the process in my head again and again and seeing where the problems lie and trying to think of ways to overcome them. Sometimes I can solve it in minutes, other times it can take days or even weeks. But the most important part of solving any problem is knowing when to take a break, and this is when I use my Raycon earbuds the most. They allow me to listen to music and audiobooks without distraction, and they're so comfortable you hardly know they're there. Now, Raycon have spent a long time on the design of this product. They've scanned thousands of different ears to come up with a shape which is going to be suitable for the majority of people. It fits nice and snugly into the ear, and it is always very, very comfortable to wear. And once they're in, they don't move, they don't slip. You can run after the dogs, you can run away from the kids, and they won't budge at all. Now, they've got active noise cancelling, which means you can cut down all the noise and chaos going on around you. But if you needed to turn that off, in case you're going to be shouted for lunch or something like that, then you can hold it for 3 seconds and it puts it into awareness mode. Also, the battery life is fantastic. They'll work for 32 hours without a charge, and then just another 10-minute charge in the pod will make them last for another hour and a half. And this pod itself holds enough battery life to be able to charge these buds 3 times over. And one of the most reassuring things is that these come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're not completely satisfied after that time, send them back and they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Now, I got the everyday earbuds in black, but they're also available in different colours, and if you want to be really fancy, then you can get different shells as well to really spice them up. So if you're thinking about a gift or just want to upgrade your own audio game, click on my link below or go to buyraycon.com/MikeH to get 15% off. It's the perfect time to treat someone or yourself. Tune out the extra noise with the Raycon. Trust me, your ears will thank you. Right, let's drill this hole. Okay, we're only a few seconds in and I've already messed up. My hole is just over 9 inches from this side, which means that when I try to screw it on, this top bit is catching. So I'm going to re-drill the hole just to this side so we can turn it over the bed without having to cut off that edge. Hopefully we'll be alright. This is where measuring twice, cutting once phrase comes to mind. Right, we won't talk about that anymore. Okay, we've got a nice full range of movement now, which is good. Now, one way I could have solved that problem was by turning my headstock out, but as we're using a worm screw and it is fairly safe, I always much prefer to use a tailstock whenever I can, just for the extra bit of safety. Okay, I've just sharpened up my 1/2 inch burl gouge so we can make a start. I think I'm going to try and clear away some of this bark and burl area on the sides, especially the higher bits, to see what's underneath, and then we can start making a plan for what this is going to look like. Now I've got a very big piece sticking out the end here, so that's going to have to be dealt with accordingly. I don't want to take too much off it at the start, but I do need to get rid of that little bit sticking out because that could be dangerous as I'm trying to turn. So we'll work on that, we'll work on these higher points and try and find out what on earth is underneath. It's starting to turn a shade under 700 RPM. It does make quite a noise this when it's going round, so brace yourself. Okay, alright, I thought we'd done more than that. Taking off this extremity here was interesting because you literally, as it's spinning, you can't see it at all, so it's more of a guess as to where it is than anything else. Okay, right, let's carry on. I think we've got a little way to go. Okay, that was a slightly more successful second cut. As you can see though, we've still got an awful lot of bark in this central area. I couldn't make a tenon or a recess on this bit yet because there's too much bark, it wouldn't be safe. We're getting close, but we do need to go in a little bit further yet. Exposing more on these edges, but I think this is going to have to be treated with a certain amount of respect in order to get to the end and have something nice. Okay, right, I'll continue on. I'm going to go quite slowly just to make sure I don't miss any sort of opportunity or go too far in a situation which I can't recover from. So we'll keep on taking this a little bit deeper, a little bit higher up in other words, and see what comes out. Okay, it's starting to look better around this middle. We've still got a bit of bark around there, but there's enough wood to do something with if we were to stop at this point. I started to create the shape of a bowl here, but when it was coming to these outside areas, I just cut in as opposed to straight across, which I would normally do. And I've got the vision now of a curve on this top area, this top lip. So I'd like to explore that a little bit further. It's not going to be fully realised until we turn it round. But as opposed to this being a flat top, I think it might look nice if we were to curve the top area down and away, as if presenting the bowl to to whoever's looking at it. I don't think we're going to get through all of this bark, and I'm not particularly worried. I think we can sand it enough and put a nice shellac finish on it so it still looks appealing. It'll still look nice. It's going to look incredibly rustic and natural, but there's nothing wrong with that at all. Right, so I'm just going to accentuate this bowl shape a little bit more. Keep this curve going just a little bit higher up. We've got the wood on both sides to do it. And see how that looks. Okay, I've just put more of a curve on there, but I just need to check the thickness I've got here. That's about 3/4 of an inch, about 15 millimeters. So I can take this up a little bit further for the shape of this bowl. If I go too thin here, then I'm going to have problems shaping the top, or not enough wood to make up for anything that's going on up there. So I'm just going to take this a little bit higher. I'll do that by coming in from this edge as opposed to coming up this way, until we're about 10 millimeters, which is about, what's that, just over 1/3 of an inch. And then let's see where that leaves us. Right, something flew off, something there. I think that was always going to come off. There's very little wood there to hold it, and that bit of wood, well, that's all bark there, so. Okay, sorry mate, you didn't make the final cut. We're just going to have to live with a slightly different shape, but there's no problem with that. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so how thin is this now? Right, I'll take one more pass coming in here. I think I've just got enough space to do that. And then we'll refine this shape here. I hope nothing else flies off. Okay, that's looking nice. Incredibly rustic but nice. I took the tailstock away on that last cut coming up the side because it's always better to turn uphill as opposed to downhill. You get a lot cleaner cut that way. So I could try and get past this bark, but there'll be virtually nothing left by the end. So right, I'm going to flatten off the base, put a recess in, and then I think it's time for sanding. That's pretty good. I'm going to set up for sanding, which is going to be interesting. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Okay, sanding went well. I would normally now go on with an isopropyl alcohol just to wipe off the grain, but I've given it a good blowout, and I think we'll be okay to go straight on with a shellac sealer. I'm going to put this on with a brush because there's just too many areas to be able to get in there with a cloth or a piece of tissue. I think this is going to look amazing. So it's the first bird's eye maple I've turned. It's not let me down so far. Look at that. I've got to really try and make sure I get into all the dips and delves inside this bark. If you've liked what you've seen so far, I would really appreciate you hitting the like button, and if you could subscribe as well, that would be absolutely amazing. It's completely free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it makes an enormous difference to us. Thank you. Right, we'll let this dry. I'm going to put a second coat of sealer on, then I'll bring you back when we're putting on the first coat of full strength shellac. Okay, that's long enough to dry. So now we're going to go on with a full strength shellac. This is an equivalent to a 2-pound cut. And I think again this is going to need a couple of coats. Now, it's going to be quite hard to buff up at the end. So I'm going to wait until we finally finish and then take it to the linisher and buff it up on there. A few people have asked me what brush this is and where can they buy one. And to be honest, it's just a cheap nylon round brush which you can get from pretty much anywhere. I got this one from a shop called Aldi in the UK. Very cheap but very effective. I don't bother washing them off, I just sit them in a jar of isopropyl alcohol. And that keeps them nice and fresh. And they do last a very long time. Okay, right, I'm going to let this dry. I'll give it a light wire wooling, and then I'll come back on and put another coat on. After that, I shall bring it back and we shall start hollowing out the inside. Right, the other side's had about 3 coats of shellac. Now we've turned it around so we can start hollowing it out. Now there's 2 or 3 things I want to try and do on this side. Now obviously we're going to hollow it out to put a bowl in there. I want to put a small lip on the edge, and also now we've got this curve going this way on the extremities. I've got to try and match it by putting a curve on these as well. Now looking from the back, there's an awful lot of bark in these areas, So I'm going to have to be very, very careful that we don't go all the way through to that bark area and start running the risk of bits flying off. If I can get to the end, I'll be incredibly happy, but if it does happen, I'm not going to worry too much about it. We've already lost one piece from there, so losing another piece is just part of the natural process, I guess. Right, so let's make a mark on where I want this lip to be. I need it to look as if it's come from the base. So okay, that's where the outer lip is. So do we want the inner lip? We don't want a huge fat lip. So the inner lip is going to be around there. The outside lip is set in stone. The inside one, we've got a bit of wiggle room, whether we make it smaller or a little bit larger. So actually, if we, as it goes around there, there is a chance. Oh, it should be all right. It should be okay. So I think first of all, I'll just come in here and just take the wood away and start working it this way to try and put this curve in. And then we'll start hollowing out after that. Okay, that happened sooner than I thought. That was that bit. Okay, now, okay, that's where it came from. Now looking at the inside here, I can see shellac on the surface of the wood, so it looks like there's been some sort of structural fault in there anyway, which is why it's come off. I'm not going to bother trying to glue that back on, we'll just leave it off. And it's all part of the ever-evolving design. Oh goodness, can't tell you how scary that is. Right, I'm making nice cuts and we're starting to slowly curve this area. But I can't see a thing, it's just a complete blur. As I'm trying to make the cut, I'm just doing it by sound. But we're getting there. Petrifying. Right, we're nearly there though. Oh, crikey. You can see the bark inclusion starting to come through. That's making that quite wobbly. That side's fine, that's pretty much done, but because this is further out, we just need to take a little bit more off here. It's not much, it's just a fraction more off this very edge. And then we've got away with it. But we've not got away with it yet. Shall I just sand it? Alright, I'll try one more little pass here. Create a slightly more defined edge on there. And then we'll just sand the rest. And we'll claim it as a victory. That's a nice lip. That's nice around there. And that, it could probably have done with, you can see the wobbliness of it. You could probably have done with going down another 1/8 of an inch, but I prefer to keep it there than take it down a little bit more, run the risk of losing it. So, right, that is a definite win. We won, great, we can go home. I think I need to take that a little bit thinner there, and then we can hollow out. Yep, excellent. Right, hollowing time. Right, that's going wonderfully. Such an amazing smell in here at the moment. It smells so fresh and gorgeous. And lovely big shavings as well. Right, we'll carry on hollowing. I can see the startings of bark inclusions, or the bark from the other side coming through, so I'm going to have to be a little bit wary of those, depending on where they appear. But at the moment, it's going very, very well. Very well indeed. Right, it's all going very well. We're getting to the point where I'm going to have to take away the tailstock. But before I do that, I just want to check the wall thickness, which is about 1/2 inch, which is plenty enough for us to do a few nice finishing cuts on this area here first, before we hollow out the remaining area. It's always best to do these finer cuts with a very, very stable base. As soon as we hollow this out, there's a chance of this wobbling and distorting slightly, so I'll quickly go and sharpen up one more time, put a nice finishing cut on this area, take the tailstock away, we'll clear out this, and then a few finishing passes across the base. Okay, we've got it. We've done it. Bar any problem sanding, I think we've done pretty well. Right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and then I shall bring you back at the end. Okay, sanding went as well as could be expected. We've managed to clean up these wings. I was supporting the back of that one with my hand when I was sanding it, just to make sure that we didn't lose it. It's structurally okay, I just didn't want anything to go wrong. So I'm going to seal it now with a bit of shellac sealer. Now some of these voids, these cavities, go all the way through to the back, so when I put it on, I'm going to make sure that there's no runs on the back, and I'm going to wipe those off. But look at that. That really is just absolutely stunning. The gentleman who bought this off on eBay, I noticed that he had two who was selling both the same price, and I bought this one when it was the slightly larger one. I may just quickly knit back on and see if the other one's still available, because it really is just absolutely amazing. Okay, right, we'll let this dry, and then I'll put on another coat, and then I'll bring you back when we are putting on the first coat of the shellac polish. Okay, that's had plenty of time to dry. It's nice and warm at the moment, so it doesn't take long. So go on again with a full strength blonde shellac. And the process for this is going to be the same as the back. I'm going to apply a coat, give it a good while to dry, and then I'm going to go over with a little Scotch pad of about 1000 grit just to denib it a little bit, and then I'll apply another coat, and I shall keep on repeating that process until I think it's had enough. There we go. Right, I shall get on with this, and I shall bring you back, and we shall take a final look at what we've achieved. Well, there we go. A natural edge bird's eye maple Burl bowl. I must admit, I am really pleased we managed to get it to the end without losing any more pieces. The bits that came off here and here, I sort of missed them, but you can't have everything. When you're dealing with a piece of wood as beautiful and as rustic as this, then you have to take the rough with the smooth, and just thank your lucky stars that you can make it to the end. And what we've got at the end is something I feel is really quite beautiful. All the figure that's going on in the burls is really quite incredible. I've taken some high-res photographs and I'll put those at the end so you can take a look. But there's so many little puppy dog faces in there, you will not believe it. This darker area here, I think that's obviously some sort of infection in the wood which has turned it that colour. It won't get any worse, it'll stay exactly as it is, but it does add a little extra something to this piece which I never really expected at the start. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this one, and I really hope you have, then I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. And if you could share the video as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. If you leave a comment as well, then you are going to be entered into the next giveaway we do. I'm not quite sure exactly when that's going to be, but every time you leave a comment, that counts as one entry into the giveaway. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.